Honestly, the best thing about going through transition and coming out the other side is the ability to wear pink fluffy things and flamingos. Hey folks, it's Finn. Welcome back everybody, and a very big welcome to any newcomers. If you are new around here, I would love it if you'd subscribe and join our fabulous Finn fam. So today is a transgender topic and I'm answering some more of your questions. And today's question is brought to you by about 1 million different people. I'm always asked this question, but more recently by Alex, Joseph and Daniel, who have asked me to share my tips on passing. But I have to say I find answering this question very problematic for a couple of reasons really. The first reason is because I find the term passing to be rather problematic, and the second reason is that I do not like to be seen to tell people what to do, how to act and what to wear, and I don't like reinforcing gender stereotypes. I believe people should be their own best version of themselves because we are all each a unique gift to this world. But after going through gender transition myself, I do of course understand how those early days when we're preteen or just very early on in the hormones and we're not being gendered correctly and how much that hurts. Dysphoria is the most painful thing I've ever gone through in my life. It's just awful. You kind of can feel okay and then you walk outside and someone calls you the wrong pronoun and it's just like they've whipped the rug out from under your feet and it's just hellish. And so for that reason I am going to answer and share some of my tips. But I want to start by first saying why the term passing is problematic. Now when we say, do I pass? It's almost like we're saying we're dressing up as something we're not. If you go out on Halloween as a cat, do I pass as a cat? You are playing a role when you are passing. And let me tell you, whatever gender you say you are, you are. So you are not passing in it, you are your gender. Even if you only just come out, even if you're not on hormones yet, even if you're on early days, you are still the gender you say you are. So a much better term is actually being read correctly, because that's what you're looking to do. You're not looking to pass as anything else other than you. What you're doing is trying to help people to correctly gender you. So being read correctly. And that's what the key difference is between these things. And I think the key difference is really important in mindset, because once we understand that we're not playing a role, we're not pretending to be somebody else, we're not trying to pass as someone else, it helps to improve our confidence because we are already that gender. So bear that in mind, because confidence is a big thing in being read correctly. So what we're trying to do with the clothes we wear, the ways we act, is just signpost people to see our gender correctly, to be read correctly. Does that make sense? And as for the second reason I find this problematic, as I say, when we transition, yes, we transition to be read correctly, but we also transition to find our authentic selves. And so for me to say to somebody, act like this and dress like this, is completely against the whole point of transition. So I want to stress in all of this that your ultimate goal should be in just being you. And so what I would say is the tips I am going to share with you, just use for a brief period of time. It's like when we break our leg and we have to use crutches for a short period of time, but then as soon as we're well, we put down the crutches. In early days of transition, when the dysphoria is high, using signs to help people to gender you correctly is your crutch. It helps people to gender you correctly, and when they do, we feel better. But then once you start to outwardly look the gender you are, and people start to consistently gender you correctly, then go out and find your own personality. Be your own version of male, female, or anything else. Only use these things for a period of time, and then just be you, because being a man or a woman or anything else isn't about stereotypes, it's about individuals. And we all do masculinity and femininity and shades in between in all different manner of ways, and there is no right or wrong way to be a man, a woman, or anything else. So with that out of the way, in early days when I first came out and I realised that I was a man, all I wanted to do was to help people to see that man, because I was suddenly so sure of myself internally for the first time. I knew what I was. I was a bloke. Everything made sense. But then every time I went out the front door, I was getting called she and madam, and it was soul destroying. And so what I did, bearing in mind at the time, I had been living as a lesbian, and I was your typical, stereotypical butch tomboy lesbian. So I had quite funky hair, sticking up like this, but more so, and it had blonde highlights. I used to wear kind of shirts undone over a vest and baggy jeans and all of that. So what I did is I completely changed everything, and I went for a very, very, very male haircut. Literally just number one all over. Took out the highlights and just went for a very, very basic haircut. And that in itself helped to change my face, and at least helped my gender to be a bit more ambiguous, so people weren't quick to go she. I don't think, looking back now, that I really did look as male as I sometimes felt back then, unfortunately. But what it did do was make people stop, so people would often not gender me at all, which was easier than being called she. And what I did about my clothing is I got rid of all of that, and I went for very stereotypical male clothing. And that's things like shirts with collars, or polo necks with collars, very dark colours, very blue colours, the stereotypical colours that you see is associated with really extreme gender stereotypes. Collars, blue, boring straight hair, dark jeans, the kind of things that take away any personality, but at least helped me to, on quick glance, be read correctly, but on a more thorough glance, still confuse people for long enough to just not even bother gendering me at all. And what wearing these clothes did, I think, more than actually signalling to other people, were helped me to feel more confident. When I could copy a very masculine look from a newspaper or something and apply it to myself, say really dark blue jeans and a black polo neck collared shirt and a very chunky male watch and a very stereotypical male haircut, was make me feel more confident. And I always noticed on those days that I was the most confident, sometimes on those days I might have even worn a different top, but because of the confidence levels, I was gendered more correctly. I'd also say don't be afraid to correct people, because they're not very often going to argue with you. I remember early days, the first time I did this was in a health food shop, and a chap came up to me and asked me if I needed any help, and he couldn't find what I was looking for, so I walked with him to the counter, and he said, "Can you help this lady, please?" And I looked at him and I went, "Lady? I'm a bloke." And in the manner in which I did it, he just kind of went, "Oh, goodness me, I'm really sorry. Can you help this gentleman?" And I know that isn't easy to do, but even a simple thing like looking confused helps people to kind of think, oh, I've got their gender wrong, you know? So if you can, do challenge people just lightly like that. It helps your confidence as well. In early days, I also looked at all different types of mannerisms that were stereotypically male. Now, you know what I'm like, hands waving everywhere. Stereotypically, men seem to stand much more still, much more stoic. They don't show as much emotion in their face or in their body. So in the very beginning, I was practicing talking like this. "How are you? Are you okay? All right." Which is so not me, is it? I remember reading that men don't kind of laugh and smile at people as readily as women do. So I was trying to just not laugh and not smile at anyone. I must have just looked like a miserable bugger most of the time. So yes, that's my advice. In early days, I would say, if you really want to be read correctly, then it's a case of using very stereotypical male styles or female styles, very stereotypical colours, black, blue for men, pink for women. It's very stereotypical, unfortunately, but they are the things that will be the biggest signals of your gender. Think about the ways you're standing, the ways you're sitting, the way you're using your voice. With a man, it's much more monotone, less expression. With a woman, it's more over the place. Again, feeding into stereotypes here, But I do understand, as much as it pains me to say this, that these things are often necessary in early days. It's one of those strange things about early transition that I discovered, that in order to be seen as the person that I am, I had to first be seen as the person that I wasn't. And that meant stripping myself of any of my own personality and just going for completely out of character, stereotypical, straightforward fashion and mannerisms, and then waiting until I finally was starting to be read more correctly, and then a beautiful thing happened. Then I was able to ditch the black and the collars and start to experiment with colour choice and fashion and to find my own personality. And as most of you know who followed my transition, I've gone from that kind of very uber male tomboy stereotypical thing to this flamboyant person who now doesn't care about wearing pink and fluffy unicorns and flamingos and all of that. And that's been the beautiful thing, that I didn't stick with these stereotypes. I realised I can be a man whatever I'm wearing, because gender identity and gender expression are two very different things. They're interlinked, but they're very different. I am 100% male, but I like to experiment with the way I move and the way I dress and the things I say, because I like all the mixture of masculinity and femininity. We are a mix of all of these things, and it isn't really that one is male and one is female. We've just culturally decided that. And one of the most amazing things about transition has been finding out who I really am. Yes, I transitioned to be male, but actually I transitioned to be me, because I hadn't been me for many years, didn't know who I was. So first, yes, I had to express to the world in ways that weren't really me, that I was male, and then once my outsides matched my insides, then I could discover the man that I wanted to be and the man I really was under here. I hope that waffle helped. So yes, people, I get you, I see you, I understand these struggles of early days, but please, as I said, remember that most of this, how you're read correctly, is confidence. And please remember also that using these stereotypical things should really only be temporary, until you're consistently read correctly, and then be your own best version of you, because that is what transitioning is really about. I really hope that helped. If you have any comments or questions about this video or about future videos, please do leave me a message in the section below. Always really happy to chat. If you haven't already, please do subscribe, but don't forget to tick the bell as well, so you'll be notified whenever I upload anything new. Thank you so much for watching. Take care of yourselves. See you soon.